The Tennessee Titans have a major deadline on Monday, but they should not extend Derrick Henry. I'll explain what's going on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. The Titans have an important deadline to extend key players on Monday. I'm going to tell you who they should extend, who they shouldn't extend, what's going on. Also, we're going to look at some mock drafts on today's show, and I'm going to go over my hype, happy, and hate tiers at pick number 7. The Titans also got some new coaches, so a lot to dive into. Before we get into it, thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed to the number one Tennessee Titans podcast in the world. Also want to let you guys know, my second episode of Tic Tac Titans, my brand new film channel, just dropped on Monday morning. It's Tajay Spears. He is RB1 in 2024. Check that out at Tic Tac Titans on YouTube. Appreciate all your support over there. But with that being said, again, there is a big deadline for the Tennessee Titans on Monday. So we talked about this last week. My everydayers will know. Let me know who you guys are down below. Couldn't do it without you guys. But we talked last week about void years and how that ends up being dead cap penalties for the Titans. And there are a ton of players right now who are set to hit the Titans for dead cap, but a couple of them are for void years. Number one, Derrick Henry. So void years are like pushing bonus money out into the future when you know that you won't have the player. It's just a way to manipulate the salary cap and get the cap hit lower for players. But this is why I say the salary cap is not fake, like some fans like to say. The salary cap, it's not fake. Eventually, the bill comes due. So the Titans, before 2022, gave Derrick Henry an extension. They gave him more guaranteed money, but what they did was they added void years onto the end of his contract so that they could spread out the bonus money for longer than his contract was actually for. Well, now that his contract is up, the Titans have to pay for those void years, and it's going to be about $4.3 to $4.7 million, depending whether you're looking at SpotTrack.com, you're looking at OverTheCap.com. Either way, you're looking at about $4.5 million of dead cap for Derrick Henry. Monday, today, when some of you guys are listening to this, if you're watching on Sunday night, it's tomorrow afternoon, close of business on Monday, the Titans have a deadline to give an extension to those players that have void years on the back end of their contract. And if they give an extension to those players, then they can avoid paying the void penalty. And then it would just be a new contract. So you would basically erase that because you're giving a player a new contract into the future where their void years would be. I know it's a bit complicated. Try my best to explain it to you guys. But basically, the Titans have the ability to not pay dead money for Derrick Henry, but they have to give him an extension. So rather than $4.5 million being void penalty, it would just be in his new contract. But here's the thing. The Titans should not extend Derrick Henry. I talked about this last week when we talked about stay or go in-house free agents. Look, number one, to do an extension with Derrick Henry and to avoid this void penalty means you would have to give him more than $5 million in 2024. And at the end of the day, I just do not think that Derrick Henry is worth that money for where the Titans are at as a team. Derrick Henry's probably going to get $6 to $8 million a year in average annual value. Probably going to have to give him, a 2-year, $15 million, 2-year, $16 million contract. And look, I would love to avoid the dead cap penalty for Derrick Henry. But it's not worth it to do that when you get, I'm not giving Derrick Henry an additional $10 to $12 million in guaranteed money just to avoid paying the 4.5. I would rather let Derrick Henry go and sign Zach Moss for $2 to $3 million, Devin Singletary for $2 to $3 million, DeAndre Swift, Deontay Foreman, AJ Dillon. I mean, Joe Mixon might get released by the Bengals. There are going to be some running backs that get released by their team for cap casualty money that are going to be cheaper than Derrick Henry, much cheaper than what Derrick Henry is going to want. And we go back to Derrick Henry said himself he wants to compete for a Super Bowl. And I know that some of you guys don't feel this way, but I do not feel like the Titans are Super Bowl contenders in 2024. They're going to need another year to build the roster up than just this year. And they're going to need some of their young players, like a Will Levis, to get better and to improve. So I just don't think it makes any, I know I'd love to avoid the void hit, the void cap or the void year penalty of Derrick Henry. I'd love to avoid that. And if you could get him back, it would make sense. But at the price you would have to pay to get him back to avoid that, it just doesn't seem like a net positive at the end of the day to me. Again, it's not only the money here. The Titans need to move on for a fresh start, look for more versatile running backs that aren't so predictable when they're in the backfield. And again, I just watched every single offensive snap of the Tennessee Titans twice. Again, in the last 3 weeks, I've gone back through the entire season once and then the entire season again. And I'm sorry, there are just certain things that Derrick Henry can't do out of the backfield that make the offense too predictable. So where he's at in his career, the financial aspect of it, and what the Titans need to do as an offense going forward, it just does not make sense to bring Derrick Henry back on an extension. So do not extend Derrick Henry. The other names, though, Ryan Tannehill is one of those names. Not a chance. So I think Tannehill will probably get $15 million for one season. Maybe you give him 2 years, $25 million so that you can, maneuver the salary cap a little bit more if you're a team like the Steelers, a team like the Falcons, maybe that wants a veteran quarterback. But the Titans aren't going to be that team. The Titans need to get a backup quarterback that's, $4 to $6 million. That's where they need to be for a backup quarterback. Now, the two names, though, that I would consider extending here are Azeez Al-Shaair and Sean Murphy-Bunting. Two guys who I'm okay if the Titans bring them back if it makes sense for Denard Wilson. Now, Sean Murphy-Bunting is a little harder to put in because I think the Titans are going to play a lot of man coverage, and Sean Murphy-Bunting is more of a cover 2, cover 4 style corner that needs to play off coverage and play downhill. I don't think he's a press man-to-man corner just based on what I saw from him last year. But if the Titans do believe that he can do that, Sean Murphy-Bunting is set to have a dead hit of $1.6 million. If you can extend him for 2 years, $12.5 million to avoid paying that, I think that would be a good value for your cornerback 2 spot. And Azeez is set to have a $2.5 million dead cap hit on the Titans. And I think if you bring him back for $5 million for 2 years, say, 2 years, $11 million with that only that first year guaranteed. So rather than eating $2.5 million and then bringing him back and paying that extra $5 million, just go ahead and give him a 2-year extension, absorb that $2.5 million into his new contract. Then you don't have any dead cap hit for Azeez Al-Shaair. You get him back on a cheap rate. And if you want to go out and get another linebacker, you want to draft somebody in the draft, you still have the ability to do that. You haven't committed too much to the linebacker position. So don't extend Henry. Obviously, don't extend Tannehill. And I would consider extensions for Azeez Al-Shaair and Sean Murphy-Bunting. But with that being said, time to go into the Mock Draft Monday portion of today's show, where I'm going to go over my hype, happy, and hate tiers at pick number 7. We're going to dive into that now. Before we do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. I love FanDuel. It's a great sportsbook. The app is great to use. You can bet on, money line, spread, over, under. Of course, they have player props, but they also have same-game parlays, and they have live same-game parlays as well while the game is already going on. There's a ton of different promotions on there, and I just think the app is visually stunning at the end of the day. It's fun to be on because it looks so good. But you need to figure it out on your own. I get it. So make sure that you visit FanDuel.com/locked on and shoot your shot, or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Put in that promo code locked on. Again, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We just went over some extension candidates. Who should the Titans consider before the deadline on Monday to do those extensions to avoid that void year penalty? Avoid. It's been a tongue twister all day long. But now I want to get into a conversation about what the Titans should do at pick number 7. And I think at this time, I have a tier list of guys I would be hype about, guys I would be happy about, and then guys that I would hate for the Titans to pick at number 7. So I'm going to get into that, plus give you guys some info on the new coaches that the Titans hired over the weekend. Before we get into it, thank you again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Make sure that you guys go check out my film breakdown on Tyjae Spears. I'm going to have the link in the description down below in this episode. Comes out at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, diving into why Tyjae Spears is RB1 for the Titans in 2024. Got a great show of support from you guys on the Will Levis video, so I hope you'll continue your support for the film channel that I just released. But with that being said, it's a mock draft Monday, and typically what I like to do here is go over some mock drafts, see what people are saying, and then kind of respond to those. Well, there are a few mock drafts that I saw. I saw one from Dan Parr for NFL.com, had the Tennessee Titans taking Olaf Fashanu. Joe Alt went number 5. Malik Neighbors went number 6. So basically it comes down to, obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. went in the top 4 picks. He actually went number 3 to the Patriots. So the Titans really had to decide, in my mind, between Olaf Fashanu, Rome Odunze, and then Brock Bowers is the only other guy that I would really consider in that spot. I saw another mock draft from my guy Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, and in that one, things really got crazy. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. went 4, quarterbacks top 3. Rome Odunze at 5, Joe Alt at 6. That's tough, man. That's tough. But the Titans went with J.C. Latham at pick 7 over Malik Neighbors. What? And in the mock draft, they referenced, I mean, shout out to Trevor, but referenced that the Titans like to run the ball and be physical up front. Does he not know that Mike Vrabel's been fired? Brian Callahan is now the coach. Anyway, and then the ringer, Ben Solak, who does great work, he has 3 quarterbacks going, Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Rome Odunze, and then the Titans taking Olaf Fashanu and Malik Neighbors dropping to 9, like we saw in the Dan Parr one. So I saw those mock drafts, and it just made me think about the tiers that I would have these players in if the Titans had the choice. Okay, and look, in my hype tier, I mean, these are options where I'm going to be absolutely over the moon. And let me know your guys' tiers down below. Hype, happy, hate. Break them down in those ways. But in the hype tier for me, Joe Alt, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Malik Neighbors. Guys, I just think that if it's me and I have the choice between Malik Neighbors and Olu Fashanu, I know that the Titans need offensive line. But listen to what I say here. I think that Malik Neighbors is going to be one of the best players in the NFL, period. I love Malik Neighbors. Won't you be my neighbors? That's all I know. All right. So at the end of the day, the Titans brought in Bill Callahan. The Titans just hired an assistant offensive line coach who we're going to talk about at the end of the show, who I think is excellent as well. There are going to be good tackle prospects available for the Titans in round 2. And I think, I like a trade down in round 2, but if they really think a tackle is great, then move up and get him. But to me, you cannot pass on Malik Neighbors for Ola Fashanu. Right now. And for some reason, there are people out there who don't think that you can change your mind during draft season. If one of these guys goes to the combine and sucks, or one of these guys goes to the combine in their pro day and we hear their interviews were terrible, then obviously I have the right to change my mind. Most of the draft experts change their big board all the time leading up to the draft. So everyone calm down on the dunk attempts. That's all I have to say about that. I could be swayed eventually to take Fashanu over Malik Neighbors. But I'm sorry, I can't do that. I cannot do that right now as we stand here. I am taking Malik Neighbors over Ola Fashanu. Give me the playmaker. Give me the guy who's going to score touchdowns and win on the outside and can motion into the slot and can run every route and is insanely explosive after the catch. I think that Ola Fashanu is going to be a good player. I do. But Malik Neighbors has the ability to change the Tennessee Titans offense overnight. Imagine Malik Neighbors and DeAndre Hopkins together with Treylon Burks as wide receiver 3 or Kyle Phillips is imagine if we have Malik Neighbors, DeAndre Hopkins, and Hollywood Brown. Hopkins outside or in the slot. Neighbors outside or in the slot. Hollywood Brown as the Z receiver, motioning in and out on the outside, getting down the field and taking the top off the defense so that DeAndre Hopkins sit down underneath or Malik Neighbors can get that deep crossing route with space. I mean, come on, y'all. That's why we brought in Bill Callahan. All right. That's why he's here. He can get the best out of a free agent signing, out of a second-round offensive tackle. I can't pass on Malik Neighbors for Ola Fashanu. I cannot do it. I'm sorry. And I am O-line over wide receiver guy. I get the whole argument. O-line over wide receiver. I get it. But Malik Neighbors is special, man. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson, wasn't in this draft, Malik Neighbors would be showered with it. Malik Neighbors would be getting Jamar Chase praise. I'm not giving that guy to Will Levis. I'm not passing up that opportunity. So for me, my hype tier is Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. Now, my happy tier, I would be happy with any of these players at number 7. Ola Fashanu, like I said, I'm happy there. Rome Odunze, who I think is also way underrated by casual fans. Rome Odunze is nasty, man. So Rome Odunze, and then if the Titans traded up for Joe Alt or Marvin Harrison Jr., I think it would be risky. But there's no way I wouldn't be happy about it. So I don't think they can do that. I don't think they will do that. But if they did it, I'm not going to get on here and be upset if the Titans end up with Joe Alt or Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, I'm not going to be as hype as I would be if they fell to 7 because the Titans had to give up additional picks to go up and get it, and that sacrifices future resources. But if the Titans trade up for one of those guys, I'm going to be happy still. Now, my hype tier, again, all Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. My happy tier, Ola Fashanu, Rome Odunze, a trade up for MHJ or Alt. But that leaves my hate tier. And there are some options at 7 that I truly, truly hate. So we're going to get into those right now. Before we do, though, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I got a concert this week. I'm going to a concert on Wednesday night. Me and my best friend T, we're going to go to the Drake concert. It's going to be lit. Drake and J. Cole, as big as the what. Cannot wait. And I got those tickets on Game Time. And here's a fun little fact for you. I got them $40 off per ticket because I took advantage of a flash deal. I love all the features on Game Time. Killer last-minute deals. They have all-in prices, so you literally know what you're paying for your tickets. You guys know how it can be out there. You get a real view from your seat. Like, you can see what your view is going to be like from that seat. No surprises. And they have a best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We went over the Titans' void years or void penalty deadline, who they should extend, who they shouldn't extend. Let me know down below how you feel about that. I have a feeling that you guys will want to extend Derrick Henry. Just a feeling that I have. Also went over my hype and happy tiers for the Titans options at number 7. Now I want to get into my hate tier, plus some news for you guys on new coaches that the Titans have added. Before we get into it, do want to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's on YouTube, and now it's also on Amazon Fire TV for free in the Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is what it's called, and it's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, plus coverage of every league from our national shows. Again, it's 24/7. It's on all day, so you can tune in at any time, whether you want to sit down and watch something, you just want some background noise. Make sure that you find Locked On Sports Today. It's now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thanks for making Locked On Titans your first listen. Again, go check out Tic Tac Titans, my new film breakdown channel. You guys have been asking about film content when I talk about it on the show. Now I have an entire channel dedicated to that. Did my Will Levis video last week, Tajay Spears this week, 8 a.m. Monday morning. Make sure you check it out. But my hype tier: Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors. My happy tier: Ola Fushanu, Roma Dunze, a trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr. or Joe Alt. My hate tier, though. At the end of the day, I'm just keeping it honest with you guys. And my opinions could change. I could move some people in and out of tiers by the time we get to the draft. But I'm going to keep it honest with you. I don't see any of these options ever making it out of the hate tier. Like, I just don't. If the Titans were to take Brock Bowers, trade down, or any other player, J.C. Latham, Talise Fuaga, any of the defensive guys, Dallas Turner, Latu, Tyrion Arnold, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Even if they went Byron Murphy or Jerzon Newton or something crazy like that. Like, again, I don't care what Brock Bowers said. And if you listen to that interview, if you really listen to the interview, Brock Bowers says he wants to live in Tennessee. It really didn't have anything to do with the Titans. It was, hey, I played in Georgia. I like this area of the country. He knows that there's no state taxes. He wants to get drafted in the top 10 too. So, you know, he wants to live in Tennessee. It's not that he loves the Titans. But I'm sorry. It just doesn't make any sense in the Brian Callahan system and any offense that Brian Callahan's been involved with since 2015. None of them had an elite tight end. The offense was not focused on the tight end. And now the Titans are going to play less two tight end and more one tight end sets. So we already have Chikakonkwo and Josh Wiley. You're telling me that you're going to invest a top 10 pick in a tight end when you only play one tight end at a time? Why? Why? And none of those tight ends are elite blocking tight ends. So you just got 3 tight ends that are receivers. I'm sorry. We don't need Brock Bowers. We got Josh Wiley at home. All right. So I think Brock Bowers is going to be a good player, but I am not taking Brock Bowers in the top 10 of the NFL draft. Like, there's just too much evidence of that not working for a tight end and them not being able to transition quick enough. I think Brock Bowers will be a good player, but I'm not certain that he'll be one of the best tight ends in the NFL right away. And go look at the best tight ends in the NFL. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, even Sam Laporta now. You want to throw him in there. They weren't first-round picks. And even the good first-round picks, Dalton Kincaid, TJ Hawkinson, David Njoku, they weren't high first-round picks. So, again, I just think you got to be smart here. This team needs more premium positions. They need offensive tackle. They need wide receiver. And no matter what, one of the guys in my hyper happy tier are going to be available. Whether it be Joe Alt, Ola Fashanu, whether it be Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. One of them is going to be available at number 7. No, it's just a numbers game. One of them will be there. I just would not be happy if they got Brock Bowers. I wouldn't. Also, a trade down. I'm going to continue to say, it's on my draft day manifesto. Do not trade down. The Titans don't need depth. The Titans need high-end players. They need blue-chip talents. You can get depth later in the draft. You can add depth in free agency with all the money. You can't get blue-chip players that easy. They have to stick and pick at number 7 and get someone worthy of the pick. Okay? I'm totally out on a trade down. Just like I said last year. Totally out on a trade down. They need high-end players. Okay? It's not like they already have a bunch of very good players on the team and they just need to fill in the depth spots and support the middle class. No, they need the top class. They need the top tier talent on their team. This team is void of blue chippers. All right? There's one blue chip player on the entire team right now, and that's Jeffrey Simmons. That's it. That's it. That's the only blue chip player that they got. So you need another one. And that's why I am in favor of Malik Neighbors over Ola Fashanu, because I know that I truly believe in my heart and soul that Malik Neighbors is going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, like almost overnight. And that's how it happens for good first-round wide receivers nowadays, not like the first-round wide receiver the Titans drafted a while ago. But anyways, moving right along. And again, other than Bowers and a trade down, any other option, Latham, Fuaga, defensive guys, Brian Thomas Jr., reaching for anybody like that would be a hate tier for me. There's no way that I could get on here and be happy about the decision. Couldn't do it. So, moving along, though, again, let me know your hype, your happy, your hate tiers for pick number 7. Let me know. And that's a format that I might use consistently after the combine. We get closer to the draft, just to kind of keep these guys in groupings. You know what I mean? It makes it easy to do. But also, before we go, want to let you guys know the news. The Titans coaching staff is officially full. Special teams coordinator is Colt Anderson, which you may remember Colt from the worst special teams play of all time when the Colts went against the Patriots and the Colts ran that like spread out quarterback sneak on 4th down and multiple yards to go. Colt Anderson was the guy snapping the ball. That's a fun fact. But he was the assistant special teams coordinator from the Bengals. I'm not going to get up here and act like I have hot takes on assistant special teams coordinators. I don't. I'm just happy that it wasn't McGahee from the Giants, who the Titans interviewed. I'm just happy it wasn't him. But we talked about that when it happened, when the interview happened. And then also the Titans hired an assistant offensive line coach, and it was Scott Fuchs from Kansas State. He was their offensive line coach in college. He's going to be the Titans' assistant offensive line coach. It's spelled Fuchs. I watched a million interviews on YouTube to try to find somebody saying his name. He said his own name. It's Fuchs. I don't give a Fuchs. Okay? Scott Fuchs is your assistant offensive line coach. And I think that's really important because here's the reality. Bill Callahan is like 67 years old. Okay? He's not going to be able to coach for another decade. He may not even want to. So I could see Bill Callahan saying, hey, I'm going to coach for 3 to 5 more years with you, son. Try to get this thing back on track. But I want somebody who I can groom, who I could set up to be the next offensive line coach. And I think Fuchs is in his 50s. So he's probably definitely got more time if everyone stays healthy, of course. And let's hope that happens. But in theory, I'm just saying I think there's a possibility where Bill Callahan coaches for a couple of years, 3 years to 5 years at max, and then hands off the job to Scott Fuchs. And that's why Fuchs was willing to leave being an offensive line coach himself in college and come to the NFL. So, anyways, excuse me. With that being said, though, that's going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to be going over some cap cut candidates. from other teams around the league. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.